Good morning, friends. I welcome you to the next session of your first day of induction Ignite 2021. I am Professor Arpit Trivedi, your event host and moderator. Let me take you through the process of how we will conduct the webinar today. Our guest will address the batch for 1 hour. First 50 minutes will be knowledge sharing and last 10 minutes will be question and answers. Students are encouraged to put their relevant to the topic questions in the chat box. Now, I would take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker of the day, Mr. Abhijit Zorwekar. Sir is an experienced business growth professional with 25 plus years in sales of technology products, with a highly successful track record in market identification, market improvement, market development, and redevelopment. Sir has spearheaded verticals like direct sales, channel sales, marketing and branding, tech support, and global business expansion. Abhijit sir, in his illustrious career, has exposure to various product and service industries, which includes industrial automation products and services, software solutions, and IT security. In his 15-year-long association with Quick Heal Technologies Limited, a household name in the field of IT security today, he was part of the leadership team that led this startup to a successful IPO. Sir is an alumnus of Department of Management Sciences, University of Pune and IIM Bangalore. Sir holds the position of Member Board of Studies at IIEBM. Presently, Sir mentors and guides budding entrepreneurs and startups. Sir is actively involved in driving their vision and go-to-market strategy. Now, I would request Sir to open the session for our students.
Good morning all and very warm welcome to all of you. Friends, it's always, it's always a pleasure and great experience to interact, a new batch of students, aspiring managers, professionals, entrepreneurs like you. And I hope we have a great discussion today. So we're going to talk about entrepreneurial thought process, something about how that works in the professional environment. We would basically try to keep it simple. I don't have too much content. I would perhaps even try to give you more time for the question and answers. So I do have a small deck with me. We'll go through that. It kind of takes through the process of what is this buzzword called entrepreneurial thinking and why is it need of the hour, why is everybody so keen that we kind of look into it, understand what is it. Okay, so let's go through this deck quickly and then we can really get into what I personally like to do, that is have a discussion with you guys, answer your queries. So yes. Hey, so guys, and I hope I hope you guys don't mind if I call you guys, it's a gender neutral term, and instead of calling you ladies and gentlemen, I think guys is a much better way, because I think for next 45 minutes or 1 hour, we are a team, right? So, so this is a very popular story, which I have over here, and some of you might have heard of this before, and so it talks about, maybe at turn of the century, there was this company in England, which used to manufacture shoes, and they wanted to expand, and they sent two guys, to Africa, two different places in Africa, and they wanted them to do some market research over there, study the markets, what do the markets look like, and hey, so both of them landed in Africa, and this is perhaps what they saw, people like this, and this was maybe long time back. Africa is much developed today. So this is what they saw. And then the first guy came back, to his boss and told, hey, nobody here wears shoes, so there's no business over here. Let's not do anything over here. And I'm coming back, by the next steamer or ship or whatever it is. And then the other guy, who also had landed in another place in Africa, he saw this and, his reply was, hey, these guys, they don't have shoes, and, it's a great opportunity. I mean, everybody's without shoes, and look, there's such a humongous or huge opportunity for us to provide them with shoes. They are running bare feet, injuring themselves. So this is an approach, which basically, makes the difference. How do you look at situation? I mean, entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial way of looking at things fundamentally is different. There's another variant to this story. I mean, somebody could say that, hey, but what about these guys? How are they going to pay us? So again, same thing. The first guy says, these guys are very poor. I mean, and they're hunters, gatherers. They don't have money. And then the second guy says, they actually have a lot of interesting things. They have beautiful beads. They create, beautiful pieces of jewelry with them, and so on and so forth. And maybe we could get into some kind of barter, and we could sell those things in our own country and maybe even make more money than what we do by selling shoes. This is perhaps a story. I don't know whether it's a story, which is true or not, but definitely a very widely quoted example. And I personally like it, the way we look at things. And why is this urgency, to look at this whole thing, So let's look at, the urgency. I mean, everybody would say, hey, I'm going to get a job, and why do I need to think like an entrepreneur if I'm going to get into a job? And then, this is what comes to your mind, hey, we are going to be the most populous country. We are already second most populous country, and look at this. So India is expected to add 273 million people to its population between now and 2050. And, most probably will cross China by 2027 and will be the most populous country, on the globe, and maybe stay like that, for the most of this century. I think as Indians, most of us are used to competition, everywhere, standing in queues, crowds, everywhere, and we really understand what competition is, and just look at the context over here that, hey, I mean, I need to be different, if I want to, grow, I want to, make it big, I want to succeed. How do I do it? There's so much of competition. How do I stand out? And that's the whole perspective, on this entrepreneurial thought process. Okay. So I have some interesting use or cases, which I had personally experienced in my own professional career, and I think we'll look at that as we go ahead, So this is a textbook definition, but kind of makes a lot of sense. What is entrepreneurial thinking? And it says entrepreneurial thinking is all about harnessing passions, skills, experience, knowledge, and insights, resources, and networks to spot and take advantage of opportunities at the right time and in the right way. I would say, hey, this is not only something which entrepreneurs do. This is what a lot of successful people do, in their day-to-day lives, personal life, professional life, everywhere. And that's the way they work, and that's why they are successful, So this is a perspective, which we're going to have today, look into about, that whole theory about India being the most populous country, and becoming the most populous country and staying like that, huge competition. So having entrepreneurial thinking skills and putting them to good use is not important for business owners alone, but for everyone pursuing a successful career. Employees with such skills stand out because they tend to think creatively and take ownership of their jobs as well as performance. Who doesn't like somebody, who performs, who would take their own decisions, Hey, I mean, just imagine yourself in shoes of an entrepreneur or a business owner, and, would you like to have people, who need to be guided on the smallest thing, every small thing that, hey, there's a customer, how do you talk with them? How do you not talk with them? Should you give a discount? Should you not give a discount? What kind of products, would a certain customer buy, stuff like that. Small things depends on the kind of business you come from, So I have few interesting, situations I've personally been through, and I saw some of my teammates really displaying very, very, very high level of, this entrepreneurial thought process. So, like Professor Arpit said, I had a very interesting journey at Quick Heal. full of, ups and downs. And, we were a small team. I joined when, the founders were like operating out of a small 2-room place, and, we scaled it. So we were a small setup. We grew over a period of good decade plus. And there were some interesting things. We had very smart guys in our team, So this is one very interesting use case. So in one of the earlier, like in some of the earlier days, we started our operations in New Delhi, in NCR or whatever you would like to call it, And obviously, Delhi has changed a lot over the last few years. It's grown crazy, And it's also no longer, it's a very costly place to operate from, And as a so we are, Quick Heal is still, primarily a B2C or a business to consumer brand. Most of our products were used, by home users, small business users, or small and medium enterprise kind of customers. And we wanted awareness to work for us, really high level of awareness. We did at latter stage invest a lot in media, we did television advertising, we did radio a lot. But these were days, we had limited budgets, and, we had a very smart guy managing Delhi for us. Let's call him SM, and SM came from a very rural area of parts of UP, he came from East UP, and SM, was very dashing guy. So, we were talking one day, like, hey guys, we want to, really increase brand awareness. What do we do? And let me tell you, SM, these are like just few instances that I'm going to talk of, but this is something SM kept on doing on an ongoing basis. Okay. So look at this. Those of you who are from north, or places which have a very hot summer might correlate with this cart. Machine ka thanda pani 2 rupees prati gilas, These are like practically everywhere, in city like New Delhi or, a lot of places in north, and they're everywhere, in summers, a lot of people do gravitate there, they'd go there, and they're strategically placed, So for whatever reasons, they are near the metro stations, they are in the markets, where everybody can see them. Now a guy came up with an idea, hey, why don't, we advertise with these guys? And, we said, hey, we are a software company. It would look shabby, right? But he said, hey, we are not associating ourselves with them. We just want to display our product, and find out, whether it works for us or not. And after a lot of discussions, he said, hey, I have an idea and let's go ahead with this. So this is an Airtel umbrella, but actually, we were pioneers in this at Quick Heal. We actually started issuing very large umbrellas, with Quick Heal branding, to these guys. And hey, we continued that activity for more than half a decade. And let me assure you, we actually saw increase in sales with this, so brand awareness. And imagine, we're trying to put a hoarding in New Delhi at few locations, and a single hoarding would have cost us few lakh rupees. And in a cost of maybe a lakh of or so, we actually now had umbrellas at multiple such cards and, branding, at so many places. So I come from this sales and marketing background primarily. And, so I kind of, my use cases would be more from these, like kind of situations. But so SM, did a great job. He ensured, visibility. So next time, whenever I traveled to Delhi in summers, I saw Quick Heal branding just about crazy. Every place I went to, Delhi, NCR region. And there's another similar case, which SM, kind of had over there. So again, we, as I said, we are a B2C brand. We wanted to talk with a lot of customers, end users, home users. And Delhi Metro was, I'm talking maybe a decade back. Delhi Metro was the most happening thing in Delhi. Everybody was traveling Metro. And during those days, people had a habit, you had this card, Metro ka card, for getting in and out of Metro, and you loaded money on it. And Indians are interesting people, you must have seen people like to keep these cards in a pouch, So, hey, again, thing coming from SM, he said, why don't we, just give away free pouches to people, and, everybody is going to start seeing Quick Heal every time they take out their cards, while traveling through Metro. And we got those cards for a few paise or maybe a rupee or so, and we distributed 1,000, if not, why just 1,000, maybe a few hundred thousands of those. And, remember one thing, friends, These were very important for us in terms of our go to market, building awareness, visibility. Okay, because any organization, which is selling directly to consumers or even through partners, but talking, it's when you do B2C business, you always look at, brands which are advertising heavily all over place. And when you're working with smaller companies, you really are struggling, hey, how do I reach out? How do I build awareness? And these are some interesting innovations, which these people undertook. These are highly visible, and that's why I thought, I could share them with you. So this is, a stall or, a booth, that a Quick Heal booth in one of the exhibitions. This could be, I don't remember which place this is, but maybe it could be from one of the events in Dubai or someplace, a fancy looking booth, and at some point, we reached a stage, where we could do this. But I have another case, of a highly entrepreneurial thinking guy in my team. And this was crazy, these days we were very small at Quick Heal. We were a 40-50 people team, and this guy used to run our operations from Nagpur. Okay, and his name was MJ. Okay, MJ was a young guy during those days, 24, 25. Very dashing. And we were really struggling to build awareness in Nagpur. People didn't buy softwares. And he said, so I'm Abhijit. So people used to call me AJ, Abhijit Zorwekar. I said, AJ, I have a great idea. There's a event coming in Nagpur, a IT exhibition, and I want to be part of it. Okay. But, the cost of taking a booth or a stall in one of those events was pretty steep. During those days, it used to cost some 40,000-50,000 rupees. And we didn't have that kind of budgets, to actually promote the product. So can you imagine, so what does, MJ do? He's a guy, he's spearheading, working very hard. What does his entrepreneurial thought process make him do? So what MJ did was very interesting. MJ actually approached another guy, who actually had a booth, in the exhibition. Okay. And the type was such that, we were just allowed to have a small banner, over there. And the way MJ convinced him was that, hey, what if I'm able to draw a lot of people to your stall, and how would that be possible? So at Quick Heal, we had this system, where we used to distribute a lot of CDs, which used to have a 2-month license of antivirus software. And during those days, it was, hot because people didn't really have access to softwares, antivirus softwares. And, even today, the virus problem continues, or malware problem continues to be a major issue for anyone who stays online long times. So I'll ensure that, I'll draw a lot of traffic to your stall. And how, he said, boss, I have few CDs lying with me, okay, few thousand, okay, and please allow me to distribute them. Anyway, I'm going to distribute them. Please allow me to distribute them during this exhibition. And can you imagine, guys, what this gentleman did is we were allowed to put only a very small logo of us, and this guy stands outside, and then there was crowd like this, and he was shouting, okay, antivirus le lo, free antivirus. My guy was shouting outside. He's an engineer, well-trained engineer, young guy. But look at his dynamism, look at his thought process. He was shouting to everybody, Bhaiya antivirus le lo, free mein antivirus le lo. And just imagine the kind of footfall, he was able to generate, with that. Interesting stuff. He had so much success. It was a 4 or 5 day event. On the first day, that from the second day, he changed his strategy. He said, instead of giving it away for free, he started selling the CD for 50 rupees, which anyway we used to give away for free. And we started sharing the revenue with the guy who had put the stall, So he also allowed us to put one more banner on the stall, which increased our visibility. And it also gave us some revenue, surprisingly, which we never expected, because we didn't think it was something which would happen. And at the end of the, event, we had some 10,000 rupees cash, and I'm talking some good 20 years back, 10,000 rupees in cash, which had been generated out of the event. So the reason why I'm highlighting this is, hey, this is the thought process, which really makes people stand out, take initiatives, do things, and these are the kind of people, I mean, even the leadership is looking out for, you see such people, and you really want to, give them more power, more authority, more freedom to do things, to take initiative. But that's how, I mean, things work, these days. And I really feel, that the new generation really needs to look into this kind of activities very proactively. There are a few things about this thought process, that I would like to talk of. There's one which is very specific and which really applies to anyone who, who's getting into, building a career in management. But before that, these are a few things. I know they might sound a bit textbookish, but let me assure you, they really make sense. Okay. So what do entrepreneurs do? One is, as I said, they will question things, the way things are being done, and they will always look at ways to improve things, They always want to move ahead. They don't get stuck up because there's a problem, and that's very important, I mean, you get into something and you say that, hey, I mean, there's a problem, and you go to your boss. Let me tell you, no boss likes, people coming to him and saying, hey, I have a problem, I mean, maybe, your boss could help you once or twice and, help you resolve problem. But he would expect you that in future, why don't they find solutions to their own problems? Or at least when they come to me and tell me that, hey, I have a problem and I have these few solutions. Can you suggest which one is better? Or can you give me some funds, so that I can actually move ahead and solve this problem? But that's what, people want these days, So now the next point, again, very, very important, entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, people who do such things inside an organization, they're not afraid of making mistakes because they learn from it and try to get their next attempt right. So see, the world is really changing, I mean, it's no longer like the old days. I won't use the term old good days, I don't personally feel they were good days, when somebody went to office, just work for 8 hours doing something. It wasn't bad, but definitely not good or great. And the new employee or the new generation, guys like you, we expect, you to really come up with initiatives, do things, if sometimes you might fail in those initiatives, but as long as you learn from them, and get it right the next time, people actually love people like this, So, hey, you can make mistakes. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. We can talk about mistakes, as we move ahead, because, hey, I mean, all of us make mistakes and there's nothing, wrong about making mistakes. So we can look into that as we move ahead as well. Okay. So this is an interesting perspective, a typical entrepreneur, he would always look at, personal growth in a different way, So with an entrepreneurial mindset, you'll realize that, if you do things in a better way, obviously it will leave you with more time, and because you're doing things better way, you're doing things faster, you might have delegated things, and at the same time, what would you do with that free time? You would go to your, seniors and say, I want more work. And you could very well ask them not just for the kind of work you're doing right now, but even for different work, different tasks, different challenges, learn new things, Now, this is one very important quality which people look for, these days. They would like to have kids, or, people, who are ready to learn new things, move ahead, pick up challenges, I always remember, so the founder of Quick Heal, I mean, he always say, hey, I mean, I like guys, take challenges, and who are ready to do new things. And sometimes, the best part is when people themselves come up with challenges. Hey, this is challenging, but I would like to do this. I don't want to do the conventional thing. Okay, I've already done the conventional thing. I've proven that I'm really good at it. I know how to do it. And so So this is one very important thing, take up new things, take up things which are challenging. You might fail, but definitely you will learn and you will move ahead. Okay. So this is again one more thing, about networking. This is a term which we use quite a lot, in startups, or for that reason, in most of the new generation business ecosystems, and that term is networking. So they say your net worth is equal to your network. So your net worth is equal to your network, So what is this network, and how does it help you? So, hey, you will end up in situations, I'll give an example you can correlate with. Most of you, you have recently completed your graduation, right? You graduated, your degrees, and you very well remember, that you're given an assignment in college, and maybe, you need some help from somebody. So who gets help, who gets to do it fast, who gets help, So the guy who gets help is somebody who knows people, with the right resources. Somebody who is ready to help you. So just imagine, you need help for physics, you might need help for maths, you might need for economics, and the guys who are best in that, and that's how, you could be, though you might not be the best in physics, maths, economics, statistics, or whatever, you could still end up actually doing as good as perhaps the best guys in the individual streams. That's because you're well networked, you know where to get the best stuff from. And let me tell you, this works really great, in the industry as well. It's simple, you want to get something done, in the outside world. How do you do it? You don't know somebody over there, but somebody in your network knows them, So I'll give an interesting example. So I was with this startup, a Silicon Valley startup, and the founder was in Gujarat. He was standing outside a company, okay, and it's one of the leading manufacturer of gearboxes in India, this company. And the startup dealt in products which go into condition monitoring. It's a kind of technology which helps you to detect flaws, or problems, in large mechanical equipment. So he wanted to have a meeting over there, and our sales guy over there, he took him to the door, but somehow, they couldn't get appointment, And then let me tell you again, now this is an interesting part. Look at the entrepreneur, this founder is a guy who's a IIT, and he's a PhD from Berkeley, and he was out there doing cold calls. This is a guy who has raised few millions of dollars. But that's how entrepreneurs work as well, and that's the mindset. The ability to really reach out, work very hard. Now this guy, this founder, he calls me up and says, "Hey Abhijit, I'm here. Can you help me? I want to get in." I start thinking, hey, who do I know? I'm in Pune. These guys are somewhere in Gujarat in an industrial town, and they're asking me GIDC, and they're asking me, can you help me set a meeting, with the guy who's responsible or manages, the IT part of stuff, the IT enablement of their technology process. I started thinking. And I said, hey, I had a large team, I reached out to somebody, a guy from my own network who, actually was based in Ahmedabad, And I told him, hey, do you know somebody, who could actually connect me, with this guy's in so and so gearbox company? He said, give me a time, give me a few minutes. He started thinking, and then, he said, give me 5 minutes. And 5 minutes later, he comes back and he says, hey, do you know Arun Joshi? Arun actually, used to sell something to those companies, and I knew Arun Joshi, but obviously I didn't have a direct line of communication with him, and I was no longer with this organization. So this guy shares with me the number of Arun Joshi, and he's already talked with Arun Joshi that Arun, AJ, needs help. Can you help him? And Arun is like, hey, great, AJ needs help. Let me help him, because obviously we interacted at times, and it was great. And Arun Joshi called up the guy inside and said, hey, I talked with Arun. Arun checked out, I shared with him name. And a few minutes later, this founder, he calls me up and says, hey, AJ, Abhijit, thanks a lot, man. I have an appointment and your guy connected the strings here and there. And now I'm inside the company. But see, that's how networking actually works. And I have numerous examples like this, where we got into, toughest tough situations, or we got over toughest tough situations, and we're able to get things done. So these are very interesting things. But that's how networking, none of us can be masters of everything, and we're going to need a lot of help, as we move ahead, and then it is your network which will help you to get over things, do things where, it might not always be possible for you, me, or somebody who's already part of your ecosystem to do things. It will take your ability to do things much, much beyond where your own abilities or your organizational abilities are. So yes, do network, talk with people, meet people, be open to exchange ideas, build a network. Now, this is one quality I would really like to stress on, when we talk of entrepreneurial thinking, because this is, let me tell you guys, this will make or break things for you. I know most of you, dream of big careers, make a lot of money, and stuff like that. So how does it differ? I mean, how is an employee with an entrepreneurial mindset different, than somebody, so with a normal employee? So this is, in comparison to a normal employee, an entrepreneurial mindset involves thinking in terms of value created for this piece of work. How much money will I help my client generate? Sounds a bit absurd, but let me give you a simple perspective. So a lot of people, I've seen this happening with a lot of young people, or why young, even people my age, say, boss, hey, I didn't get a great increment this year, and I haven't got a great increment since last many years, and I really hate my company, So, hey, what did you do? Why do you deserve, an increment? He said, hey, I have work, right? So I need a salary. And yeah, because I have work, and that's norm, right? I mean, every next year I should get an increment. That's why I get an increment, right? and that's perfectly the mindset, which takes you nowhere. It takes you nowhere. I mean, hey, how do I add value to the organization I worked for? How do I take it from X to Y? How can I ensure I make them more money? How can I ensure that they build better products? How can I ensure that the margins we generate from same business are higher? How can I ensure that I have higher customer satisfaction, which in turn leads to better business or whatever? So value generation is a very, very important piece, which a lot of people just are never able to understand. They feel that because I work, I should get a salary, and because I spent one whole year, the next year my salary should increase. So that's one mindset, which young people like, you and a lot of people in my network have already got over it, and they got into that value generation mindset. So be assured, this is one thing. This whole set of slides, let me assure you, if there's one piece I would really love you guys to take, this is that piece, value generation. Can I generate value for my organization, So this is one piece I really want you guys to take seriously. Okay. And yes, I personally seen, guys who have this, entrepreneurial way of thinking, they're normally happier, because they're always in a situation where they're doing something which they love to do. They're taking an initiative. There's always something which is initiated by them, and they're not just doing something just because somebody has has told them to do it. If they're doing something somebody else has told them to do, they have added a layer of their own personality, their own abilities to it. They're making it better, so they're happier, they are better people. That's definitely something which will take you a long way. And yes, I think this is the last slide on this small deck, which is very important. So Nolan Bushnell was founder of Atari. For those of you who play video games or follow technology domain, might have heard of him. And this is a very important statement. The true entrepreneur is a doer, not a dreamer. So yes, all said and done, we talked of some things on this deck. It was so this is not theory, this is all real life, adding value, building networks, going out of the way to do things, not getting stuck up because there was a problem, finding ways of getting over problems. That's how the entrepreneurial thought process works. And hey, you don't need to be an entrepreneur to have that thought process. It's a thought process. It's about way you think, way you leads towards success. Okay. So this is the last slide I have. And I think I would be happy to take questions from here onwards. Yeah. Thanks.
Sir, I have got a couple of questions already ready while the discourse was on. Some of my students have given brilliant questions. Sir, the first question is from my student from Coimbatore. She asks, sir, how pandemic has changed the IT security market? Your views.
Okay. So there are multiple ways in which the security market has changed. Okay. One is I'll look at the commercial and the technology perspective as well. Commercially, it's been a boon to the security domain. Suddenly, people. So besides the infrastructure which people were using, okay, all of you might be aware of this term called "bring your own device," right? I mean, that's coming up very strongly in the industry. So BYOD, those of you who don't kind of follow the term, it's about carrying your personal laptop or mobile devices to office and using them in the office instead of using the office devices. Okay, and see, the security norms change when you do this. Now, what happened during the lockdown? Suddenly, people started using their own devices at home. And hey, I was talking with somebody in the industry, and I said, hey, I've suddenly seen sales improving. He said, why? What's happened is people are buying security products for their devices which were actually lying unused for many days. So that was a very basic thing which happened. Now comes the next part. You had devices which were unprotected. Suddenly you are buying products for those unprotected devices because now using them for office work. Next comes the part, now, hey, you are using those devices to work on office stuff. You're connecting to your office infrastructure. You're connecting to data, your cloud infrastructure, or your data warehouse or whatever, depending on the way. Or, web applications are fair. They were already protected. But you would definitely be very concerned when people are accessing your enterprise applications, web applications. And this is where a lot of things, suddenly, stuff like, I've seen a lot of very young startups, working in space of zero trust or, VPN suddenly, again gained traction, but, stuff like zero trust came in. So what has happened is, yes, there's been a lot of change in terms of demand, as well as the kind of technologies that now people are looking at. Yes, people also want simpler technology because all of a sudden, instead of employee being in office, he's working from home. And what if the security product starts giving him a lot of alerts, the way it works? So again, there are interesting things which have happened. So there's a few things which I personally saw, the way pandemic affected security market in terms of demand, in terms of the kind of technologies people are now seeking, So that's how it is. Yeah.
Yes, certainly, sir. Sir, the next question is from my student from Nasik. He has a very unique question. He says, sir, how to have an entrepreneurial mindset till I finish my PGDM without getting lured by the packages that my institute will offer in the future?
Let me tell you one thing. If this whole discussion we had, I still like to call it a discussion. It's not a hall. I really love those sessions, where the students are in front of me.
Sir.
But see, what we've been talking of is the generating the mindset. Okay. So I'll give a slightly different example, but kind of try to correlate with it. Okay. I have a relative who runs a garage. Okay. And now this gentleman, he runs a garage for two-wheelers. He's got authorized servicing thing for Honda and Bajaj two-wheelers. There are two garages in front of each other. And this gentleman actually is an automobile engineer. I mean, he used to work in design department at companies like Mahindra and so on, and Bajaj as well, And then he started on his own. Rather, he had a family business which he expanded and turned into something pretty interesting. I was talking with him and he said, I was after my son, why don't you come to the garage and at least see how, this works. So if you're not interested in mechanical engineering, at least come and see how the setup works, understand the business side of it perhaps, So no, the guy didn't come. But interestingly, he had a son's friend of his, he had a friend whose son, was studying mechanical engineering somewhere in some college, and this kid, he had a small break of 10 days, and that kid came in, studied, was there for 10 days, dirtying his hands, doing things. And, by end of 10 days, he requested this gentleman, can you give me a small letter of recommendation? Now what I'm talking of is, see, look at this guy, he doesn't know this garage owner. His father knows the garage owner some way. He's reaching out because he wants to do something. So remember one thing, you don't have to be in a certain place or in a certain situation to have this mindset. This mindset is something which you build over a period of time. And that's the reason why we have pointers over here. We talked of networking, we talked of adding value, we talked of, taking initiative, we talked of, trying to get over problems. And see, I'm not even using this highly hyped term of innovation, because I know it's tough, when we talk innovation, it's tough to define. But that's why I use this simple, hey, how do we find solutions to get our problems that we face on a day-to-day basis, instead of getting stuck up. So what I would say is, see, it is important to have that mindset, there are few pointers in the presentation or that small deck we had today. Stick to that. It's not about the package or anything. You could be in a job and still have that mindset, or you could be self-employed and have that mindset, or you could be studying and you could still have that mindset. So it's about mindset. It's about the way you think. Okay. So that would be my answer. I hope, this is something which fits in, but if you have any follow-up question, I would be happy to take it. Yeah.
So I'll be continuously going through the messages if I find one from him. Yeah. Sir, the next question is from my student from Singrauli, MP. She asks, what is the right time to approach an angel investor or a venture capitalist? In the beginning of the journey, entrepreneurial journey, or you take the company to a particular level and then ask for funding? What do you feel, sir?
It's actually a tough question, a good one, because it's very tough to answer this question. I'll tell you the reason. I've seen startups which raised money on the concept, but the concept was really very, very unique or very different. And let me tell you, reaching out to investors may not always be the easiest thing in the world. I've worked with startups, both funded, unfunded. I know startups which are also crowd-funded, and so on and so forth. So different ways of raising funds. What I would say is typical journey of a startup. Unless you're working on something very radical, the way it works is, you try to define a value set very clearly. Hey, what is the benefit which your prospect customers are going to have? Define that very clearly, And if you have the wherewithal, or if you have the resources, try to build at least a basic product, or what we call as MVP, or a minimum viable product. Note this term, okay? Understand what's a MVP. Normally what happens is, with an MVP you are able to reach out to your prospect customers, people who have evinced interest in using this kind of technology or product. And see, sorry, I shouldn't be using the term technology, it's about solution. Okay, so you can reach out, talk with people who are interested in this kind of solution that you have built. It could be anything. It could be a retail solution, it could be a B2B solution, or something, or a logistics solution. So that's how it is typically. Post MVP, if you're able to get some customers, and best part is, if you're able to actually get customers who pay you something for even that very basic value that you're delivering, that's the best time to reach out to investors. That, hey, normally venture capital funds would put money in business for growth. It is angels who would invest, at a stage where you are at concept and you don't even have money to build the concept, or go to an MVP. Or crowdfunding would be a better way. When I say crowdfunding, it's not necessarily always crowdfunding. It doesn't work great in India, but friends and family is a term I should use. So if you are in a stage where you have a great concept, but you really don't have money to build it, then friends and family works. I've seen it in India. Okay, so that would be my answer. VCs typically would enter only when you have something in your hand. In US, it's slightly different. They do invest even at early stages. But that's a different story. Yeah.
Sir, the next question is from my student from Bhopal, and she asks, sir, what is the most common mistake that young entrepreneurs make?
That's that's a good question. So let me tell the young lady that this is a mistake which not only young entrepreneurs make, even very experienced entrepreneurs make this mistake. Okay, and this mistake is building a product or doing something without validating the concept or without talking with your customers. Okay, now when I say this, I know there will be voices which say, hey, there is that very famous statement made by the founder of Apple, so he said, customers don't know what they want. And I must say, hey, he was a great guy, he was successful, but in most cases, it's not that simple. If you have to go around in market, talk with founders who got some level of success, let me assure you, they always kept on talking with their customers. They knew what their customers wanted. Don't build your product, without talking with customers. Don't be afraid, that's one thing. A lot of people ask, hey, what if I tell my concept or idea to somebody and they steal it? Hey, nobody's going to steal your idea. Don't worry about it. If somebody tries to copy your idea, you already moved ahead, right? You must have thought of it 6 months ago, so you have better plans than them. And somebody trying to copy it is actually a validation that you have a great idea. Take my word on it. So look at it like that, and don't try. So do validation. Check out that, hey, is what I'm thinking really what the market wants? Is it genuinely something which people will pay for? So a lot of times you go to somebody and tell, hey, there's a way I've been thinking of which will make your life easy. For example, one of the startups, where we've been working, and I was working earlier, let's say, this product, it's an industrial product and it goes into certain equipment. And, the thought process was, so would you buy this product? Hey, great, I like this. But then what happened is, the instance we start talking price, they said, no, that's a very high price. So no, this is something, so people wanted that kind of a product, but they were not ready to pay that kind of money. Okay. Then came the other part. Okay. So some said, we are ready to buy it, but I'll buy it only for, so I have, let's say, gearboxes. We talked of gearboxes during the course. I have 1,000 gearboxes in my plant. Okay. But only those 5 are large and critical ones. I'll buy 5 pieces of your product. not on 1,000 devices. So suddenly you must have thought, boss, that plant is worth 1,000 use cases or 1,000 products while a customer, and you sold 5 over there. So just imagine. So these are small things which you understand only when you get into it, get into thick of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Feedback is very much essential. Soul searching in a product is as important as introspection in oneself, I feel, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
So the next question coming your way is again from Madhya Pradesh, and this comes from a small town called Khargone. And the question is like this: sir, why ease of doing business in India is so difficult?
I won't get into the legal and compliance part of it, because that's something which every entrepreneur will have to go through, irrespective whether you set up a medical ki dukaan or a kirana shop or whatever you do. Let's not talk about it. But let me tell you, when it comes to running a business, it's tough for every business. I was reading some statistics yesterday. I would have loved to have it, but I don't have it handy to share. So they say that surprisingly, 1 in 100 startups in the US is able to raise funds. And even in that, the failure rate is, like only 4 or 5 out of those who have raised money are able to survive for first 3 years and so on and so forth. There are different kinds of, phases in which the failure happens. What I would say is failure or something being tough, why is something tough? When we say something is tough, what do we mean by it? If as I said, if we're coming to the compliance part of it, or getting the necessary licenses and all, like we discussed earlier, that's something which everybody has to do. So that's already there. So when it comes to doing business, the reason why you might be facing problems is because, hey, you did not build your business model right. You didn't go to the right customer. You didn't price the product right. Okay. I would say a lot of problems which are specific to you yourself would be an outcome of the design you have. When I say design, I'm not talking about the product itself or the service itself. I'm talking about the way you design the whole business process, the whole thought process. And that's where the whole tough thing starts. The more you talk with customers, the more you keep on. So there is this term called, constant improvement, or ongoing improvement, So a lot of people, they say, hey, so this is the way I believe it is going to be, and people will buy it. I had a very tough experience, with a founder, and this gentleman is like, I know him very well, very smart, highly educated guy, He had raised almost 2 crore plus rupees in funding from friends and family, and he built a product without talking with a single customer. Can you imagine it? He built a product without talking with a single customer, and I was advising him on going to market. And now what happened is, he had already invested most of the money in building the product, and then he told me, Abhijit, I want customers for this product. And then when I got in, I said, Sami, let's call him S. Okay. And so I said, S, hey, have you talked with customers? You build this product. I also like the concept, there are a lot of very beautiful concepts, but like we discussed earlier, would people pay for it? Do people really want it? And then you go and build something without really knowing whether people are ready to pay for it, they want it, or is it just something people like as a concept, right? Right now we see, people talking about space travel, so there's been a lot of hype, which is great. These are really very successful people who've done it, but how many people are there who would pay for it, for space travel? Again, if there's genuine data on it, obviously, but this is where it comes to. Failures are not inherent because of the problems in doing business. They occur, or challenges occur, because of the way we do business. Okay, so that's my perspective on things. Yeah.
Sir, the next question is again a tricky one. This comes from a student of mine from Ahmedabad. She wants to know, sir, is entrepreneurship an art or a science?
Okay, tough. I mean, I don't think we should look at a textbook definition for this. I would say it's a combination of both. It's an art and it's science as well, because see, there are certain things which are proven, like which one can follow, I mean, that, hey, if you do something this way, like we talked of, like, let's say, the instance you have an idea or a concept, validating it, understanding that, hey, the concept is good, looking at the value generation which could happen out of it for the guys you want to, the guys who you want to buy that product, and so on and so forth. And then how, when you plan, and how will you reach out to them, how will you communicate? There's so many things. I would suggest just read about the term GTM, go to market, go. And I think you will definitely find some interesting things over there, So I would say there are certain things which can be defined that, hey, these are basics which need to be done. And then when it comes to the art part of it, I would say it's more personal, but I think a lot of things can be learned over a period of time, I mean, so what if somebody says, I can't network, I can't talk with more people. Is it an art or a science? Hey, you can learn it, right? Networking can be learned. It's just about, getting over it, I mean, why can't I just go and talk? You meet somebody, I mean, simple example, you meet somebody in the lobby, where you stay. Why can't you just say, hey, hi, good morning, you say good morning to them on few occasions, and perhaps, after a few days, they could start talking with you and you could learn something interesting. And that happens quite a lot with me, So what I'm trying to say is it an art or a science? I would rather say it's something which can be learned, something which can be developed. Okay, you can become an entrepreneur. Another very important thing is, entrepreneurship is not necessarily a personal thing. Most of the ultra successful organizations that we have seen around, they're built by teams and not by individuals. Let me assure you of that. So for those of you, so Elon Musk, because is right now, the talk of town. I think a lot of people don't hear about his younger brother who is part of his, endeavor. And he's been a pillar of strength for Elon Musk. I don't recall the first name. But what I'm trying to tell you is, a lot of guys, you look at Apple, you look at Microsoft, you look at these companies, all of them have had either co-founders or, founding members. Founding members are not necessarily founders, but they are part of those teams, when the organization didn't have anything, very early stage businesses. So what I'm trying to tell you is, hey, it's not something which you cannot learn. So don't get into that part of art and science. Be assured that, there are things, if you do them right, you get it right. Okay. And yes, in spite of that, there can be failures. But then there's again one more thing. As long as you keep on learning from your failures and work over it, hey, you can definitely see success. Again, success is a relative term and so on, so for the big discussion. But yeah, that's where, we could be. Yeah.
So this is the last question I'll take, because questions are coming up and running, but with the constraint of time. Sir, it's a beautiful question, I would say. Sir, can you please tell us which entrepreneur, a local entrepreneur, you admire? Students are from multiple cities, they would not know. This is something they would like to know, the flavor of entrepreneurship in Pune, or kind of people, what kind of things they are doing here.
Definitely. So see, Pune has had some very, very, really great entrepreneurs, right from Kailash and Sanjay, who I worked with for good 15 years at Wakil, and Mr. Pramod Chaudhary, I think is a doctor, yes, okay, of Praj, but something which okay, obviously, based on my observations and learnings, one gentleman I really admire is obviously Dr. Anand Deshpande of Persistent Systems.
Persistent Systems.
Okay, I've met him only once or twice in some formal events, but let me tell you what I admire about him. And having been part of being part of an organization which scaled up, and I was part of the board, talking with very senior people in industry. There's something very interesting about this gentleman. So incidentally, when we did our IPO, our CFO was a guy who was also part of, who also drove the IPO of Persistent. So he had a lot of stories about Mr. Deshpande. And let me tell you, there's a few things which strike you outright. One is, he's a simple soul, So for those of you, who are like, this will also give a flavor of the way Pune is. Pune is a very different city. So Dr. Deshpande had this very interesting quip, to say, how do you turn informals into formals, So Dr. Deshpande has a habit of wearing half-sleeve shirts, and he's a doctor, proper PhD from some good university. He said, tuck in your shirt and now you're in your formals, Very humble person. You talk with him, he's very humble, but don't get fooled by it. He's got a crazily sharp mind. And now comes the real reason why I admire him. So obviously, I personally respect people who are humble, down to earth, display empathy. Let me tell you, empathy is one quality which really strikes out. But now comes the most important reason why I admire him. He has reinvented Persistent at least 5 to 6 times. So friends or guys, one very interesting thing when you run a business, there are always phases. You move from A to B, and then you say, "Hey, was B your destination?" So any business organization or any organization, it could even be an organization which was built for social cause. Okay, but any organization, it always wants to, once it reaches B, it realizes B was not the goal. It wants to move to C, and from C to D, and then moving from B to C and C to D is always a different story. You have to reinvent, okay, really redo things, do things differently, okay. And this is one thing which Dr. Deshpande has really done multiple times, at Persistent. They started, they always positioned themselves as a company which worked in, building products, for other companies. And when they started, they were doing this in the database space. They kept on reinventing. They're no longer doing only database. They kind of work with some of the largest companies in the world like HP, Microsoft, Intel, and so on and so forth. So whenever I listen to him or listen to people like, our CFO, who used to have those stories, see this ability to reinvent things again and again and keeping on. And then, one more thing is, every time you listen to him, he'll have something new, and he keeps on, he's very specific about unlearning and unlearning things, So this is something I really admire about this gentleman, though I don't know him very well personally. As I said, I've heard him talk and maybe said hello to him on few platforms, but that's one guy I really admire from this city. Yeah.
Sir, with this thought, we would wrap up the session. Thank you, sir, for your knowledge sharing session. I'm confident your informative session was need of the hour, required at the right time in the right way. My students will be immensely benefited with this constructive discussion. Thank you so much, sir. And special thanks to my students, Nidhi, Karan, Manjeet, Vishal, Rahul, and Diksha for asking brilliant questions. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thanks. It was an honor being here, and wishing all the students very best of luck. And I hope you're able to actually be on campus at earliest and actually get to, do things, be there. It would be really great. So have good time. Stay safe. Take care. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Have a good day ahead. Bye.
You too, sir.